The ice storms of Vryn 4 were legendary across the galaxy, not for their beauty, but for their brutality. Shards, the size of human forearms, fell from the ammonia-rich clouds, propelled by winds that could strip flesh from bone. The native Vryn, apex predators with obsidian scales and eyes like molten copper, had evolved to weather such storms in their deep burrows, sealing themselves away until the planet's rage subsided. But Riva Thorn was not Vryn. She was human, and humans had a reputation for doing monumentally stupid things in the name of survival. The pack had found her 3 cycles ago, half dead in the wreckage of a survey shuttle. Most Vryn would have eaten. Her humans were protein, after all. And Vryn 4 offered little mercy to the weak. But the pack's matriarch, Chakra, had seen something in the broken woman's eyes. Defiance. The same fire that burned in Vryn hearts. So they had taken her in. A curiosity. A pet, perhaps. Riva had repaid their mercy by making herself useful. She repaired their equipment with steady hands, helped organize their food caches with human efficiency, and told stories by the fire that made the cub's eyes widen with wonder. Stories of Earth, of Sol, of a species that had clawed its way up from the bottom of the food chain through nothing but stubbornness and spite. The cubs adored her, especially Koresh, the oldest of the litter, whose scales were just beginning to darken from juvenile silver to adult black. He followed Riva everywhere, pestering her with questions about Earth's apex predators, disappointed to learn that humans weren't among them. "Then how did you survive?" he would ask, mandibles clicking with confusion. "We cheated," Riva would answer with that strange human smile that showed teeth. "We made tools. We made fire. We made plans. When you can't win with claws, you win with cleverness." The storm came on the 19th day of the harvest season, earlier than anyone had predicted. The pack was scattered, the adults hunting in the northern canyons, the adolescents gathering in the southern valleys. Only Riva and the 5 cubs remained at the den, along with grandmother Thess, too old to hunt but still fierce enough to guard the home. The first shards fell like javelins. Grandmother Thess bellowed for the cubs to get inside, her voice a primal roar that shook dust from the cave ceiling. But Koresh and his siblings had been playing too far from the entrance, chasing a native rodent through the rocks. Riva didn't think. Thinking was for creatures with time. She ran. Her boots slammed against stone as ice rained from the sky. A shard the size of her arm embedded itself in the ground where she'd been standing a heartbeat before. Another sliced past her shoulder, drawing a line of fire across her skin. She ignored it. "Koresh! To me!" Her voice cut through the wind, sharp and commanding in the way that made the cubs obey without question. The young Vryn turned, eyes wide with fear, and ran toward her. His siblings followed, their instincts screaming at them to seek shelter with the adult. But Riva wasn't an adult, not by Vryn standards. She was small, soft, breakable. Yet she stood there as the sky fell, placing herself between the cubs and the storm. The first shard that hit her shoulder nearly drove her to her knees. The impact radiated through her collarbone, a white-hot explosion of pain. She gritted her teeth and stayed standing. The cubs huddled beneath her, their bodies low, their terror palpable. "Stay down," she commanded, her voice steady despite the agony. "Stay together. I've got you." Another shard struck her back, and she felt something crack. The world tilted, but she planted her feet wider, making herself a bigger shield. Blood ran hot down her spine, already freezing in the sub-zero wind. Koresh looked up at her, his copper eyes reflecting the lightning that split the purple sky. "Riva, you're hurt." I said stay down. The storm intensified. Shards fell like judgment from an angry god. One caught her thigh, another her forearm. Each impact was a hammer blow, each one threatening to shatter her resolve. But Riva Thorn had not survived a shuttle crash, had not dragged herself through 50 kilometers of hostile wilderness, had not earned the respect of apex predators, just to die protecting their children. Humans were stubborn like that. Time became meaningless. There was only the storm, the pain, and the 5 small bodies pressed against her legs. She counted their heartbeats through her boots, rapid, terrified, but alive. That was all that mattered. When Grandmother Thess finally managed to reach them, she found Riva still standing. A statue of frozen blood and determination. The old Vryn roared for the cubs to run, and they did, scrambling toward the den's safety. Riva collapsed the moment the last cub was clear. She woke to the sensation of rough tongues licking her wounds, the Vryn method of cleaning injuries, their saliva mildly antiseptic. Koresh sat beside her, his young face twisted with an emotion Vryn rarely showed. Guilt. You should have let us take some hits, he said quietly. We have scales. You only have that. He gestured at her skin with a claw, at the soft, vulnerable flesh that had taken blows meant for armored predators. Riva smiled, though it made her split lip crack open again. That's not how it works, kid. Adults protect cubs, always. But you're not Vryn. No, she agreed. But I'm human. And humans protect their pack. The pack returned at sunset. Chakra entered the den first, her massive form blocking out the dying light. Her eyes found Riva immediately, taking in the bandaged form, the purple and black bruises that covered every exposed inch of skin, the way one arm hung useless at her side. Koresh stood. In a voice that carried to every member of the pack, he spoke. She stood in the falling ice for us. She bled for us. The storm tried to break her, and she would not fall. The pack went silent. Then, one by one, starting with Chakra herself, they lowered their heads, a gesture of profound respect among Vryn, reserved only for the most honored warriors. Riva tried to sit up, wincing. I just did what anyone would. No, Chakra interrupted, her voice like grinding stone. You did what Vryn would do. What pack does. She stepped closer, her great head level with Riva's battered face. You are pack, Riva Thorn. Not human who lives with Vryn. You are Vryn, who was born wrong species. Tears stung Riva's eyes, not from pain, but from something deeper. Acceptance. Belonging. She had crossed the galaxy and crashed on an alien world, only to find what she'd been searching for her whole life. A family that judged her not by her weakness, but by her willingness to stand despite it. Thank you, she whispered. Koresh curled up beside her, careful of her injuries. Tell us a story, Riva. Tell us about Earth's storms. And so she did. Her voice soft but steady, speaking of hurricanes and blizzards, of a species that had learned to weather every storm their world could throw at them. As she spoke, the pack listened and understood at last what made humans dangerous. Not their claws or their strength, but their absolute refusal to abandon those they'd claimed as their own, even when the sky itself fell upon them.